everybody, welcome my podcast, Bring It On. I'm Dom, and I'm very, very happy tonight because I have a guest, a guy that, I grew up listening to. I don't want to make him feel old at all, but it makes me feel old too when I realize that it's been 26 years ago that I met him for the first time. Great Canadian singer, Mr. Lyell. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Dom. How are you?
I'm doing great. Like we talked before the podcast, it's incredible how social media is, I was listening to your first album last Saturday, and I was like, damn, I wish, you were still making new music. And a few years ago, I heard your song about hockey that you did, and I stumbled upon a podcast you did about a year ago, and through Facebook, I contacted you, and here we go. So
here we are. Yeah, that's great. That's a great thing about Facebook.
Exactly. So, first of all, for those who never heard about, you've been in the music industry basically all your life, and you're still involved in it. So tell me more about, how you grew up to be involved in music.
Well, my brother was a guitar player, singer when I was very young, and I saw that he got all the girls, so I thought, wow, that's for me. That's what I want to do. But anyway, I ended up being... I guess about 14, 15, started to learn how to play guitar, and you got your first band together, and of course, you want to shoot for the stars, and that's what we did. I remember quitting school at 16 and vowed that I would have a record contract in 3 months, and, well, it took 9 years, but, I ended up getting one, and we ended up touring Canada and putting out a couple albums that meant something to some people. So, I'm very lucky that I was able to have that chance.
Yeah, I agree, because the first time I saw you was here in Sherbrooke when I was working earlier when I was younger in a radio station there, and we saw you in Sherbrooke. Then we had a chance to do a small interview with you. You invited us to see you live in Montreal, and I still remember the show, and we were singing every word, and you took time to say that's so cool to see people in the crowd, knowing all the words to your songs. And I still remember, because back in the day, not a lot of people were very close to their fans. People would just basically go through the motion, but live, you're very much interacted with the fans, and truly appreciated it. And I still remember it 26 years later.
Well, you know what? I'm really glad that people did know the words. That way, I could remember them, because I'd be watching their lips.
But your first album, because back in the day, it was not like Google right now, where you could go easily and find, okay, the song now is not 22 on the charts or whatever. But if memory serves me right, your first album you had 4 or 5 hits out of it, and a few songs, went straight to the top 10 in the country charts here in Canada. Am I right?
I don't know about country charts, but on the AOR charts they did. We had like 3 of them on the top 10 of the first album. We had 2 of them actually on the second album that did that as well.
That's incredible, because I remember the first song that I truly remember was Another Man's Gun. And if people never listen to this song, you can find it on YouTube and or on iTunes, Spotify. But it's an amazing song. The video was great. And tell me more about this song, because I know that you basically wrote, not only performed, but wrote the songs, right?
I wrote the song in Quebec, actually. I wrote the song up in St. Agathe.
Wow.
Most of it in St. Agathe. I had 90% of it written, and I couldn't figure out the bridge. And then 3 months later, back in my hometown, I finished it. But I actually started it up in northern Quebec. And I think it was so cold up there. It was like minus 30. I was dreaming of the desert, because I wanted to get warm. And so I wrote a song about being in a desert and, the Wild West.
Yeah, because your music kind of have a country vibe, blues vibe to it, rock. It's very good. It's still, that's what I wanted to tell you, is that if you listen to it today, sometimes you listen to songs from 1990 or the 80s, and they haven't aged well. But your songs today would still be great radio hits, and I can only imagine a song like Cruel Life today even makes more sense than 26 years ago, and would still be a major hit. What do you think about Cruel Life? Because the words, it's one of the most inspiring songs I've ever heard lyrically. The music was kick-ass, and it's probably one of my top 10 favorite songs of all time.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. That means a lot. I have no idea about time for music. I grew up in the 70s and listened to bands like the Eagles and Elton John. And music back then, they didn't call it country or rock or this or that. It was all rock. It was all rock. But it had flavors of country country and metal and all kinds of different stuff. And then later in the 80s, it started to get into more genres because record companies wanted to make more money. That's all. You know what I mean? If we can define our audience, we can make more money. But I enjoyed when music was music, and it was just, you know, it didn't have the labels that it has today, you know. And to me, I think internet radio is changing that. I think internet radio is starting to get back to where everything is just music, and which really matters. It's not about the marketing, you know. I mean, it is for money making, but not for the people. It's music, and what lyrics and relate to the people, what music relates to the people, what makes the nerves tingle, you know. And so, I mean, to me, all songs are timeless. It's just that when they put them in genres and start using production techniques that they're trying to make more money, that's when music gets messed up.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, you know, like I said, you know, your songs, even today, you know, when you listen to them, you go like, wow, this should be it. You know, I would be so happy if I had money and I could hire a new young singer coming up, you know, and have him, you know, maybe Carry Me or None of Men's Gone or Cruel Life. I'm sure it would be a big major hit because, like I said, it still rings true today. And Cruel Life, I don't know why, but there's something about the song, you know, like I remember in the second verse, you know, when saying it, people, you know, like rich kid, you know, having everything handed to them, and the other kid, you know, from the neighborhood, you know, being in trouble all the time, and some people saying, you know, shouldn't worry about it. That's just life, you know. And today, that's basically what people do all the time. You know, they don't care about anybody else. It's all about me, myself, and I, and that's what the song was talking about. When, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I work in a lot of ministry right now, and I work with a lot of families, especially youth at risk, and you know, a lot of them is just is very, very much self-entitlement that I should have this, I should have that, and the work ethic isn't there that used to be. You know, that you wanted to earn where you were going, and it's not there anymore. So what I try to do is I try to install that. I try to get reward plans where they can work towards something and feel good about themselves, you know. And when they do that, they have a sense of accomplishment, which is what I think our schools and education system are getting away from. They're handing out certificates instead of letting people work for them. And I think it's, in the long run, it's the worst thing they can ever do.
That's true. And you started working ministry how many years ago?
I probably about 9 years ago, I started working at a place called the Youth Impact Center, and then from there I start working through Maple Creek Church, and I do a lot of different ministries with people, and actually speaking messages and playing, and you know, doing a lot of things. So it's music has just taken a different turn with me. That's all. It's still part of me, and it's still what I do, but it's just on a different level.
Wow, do you have new songs that you wrote that maybe you haven't put out yet, or?
Yeah, I do have quite a few new songs. We ended up having 4 albums. You can get them on iTunes. The first 2 were released in Canada. So the third one was too, but it didn't do very well. And the fourth one, which was actually more of a gospel record, was released in 2004, and you can get that on iTunes, but it was never really put in any stores.
Well, but that's what's fun about today, you know, is that now people can come up with their own album, even if they don't have the big machine labels behind them, and telling them what to do. You know, a good example of that was I had Red Akins on my podcast a few years ago, and the first few albums he did, you know, he had #1 hits, country singer. I don't know if you know, now he's writing songs in Nashville, and you know, they made him look like a heartthrob, but the guy's redneck. He's from Georgia, you know. He loves to drink and to hunt, to fish, you know. And it was not him, you know. And when he finally broke free from the big major record labels, he started writing songs, and it became, you know. Now you listen to country radio, you probably have 10 out of top 40 songs all the time that's written by Red Akins and Dallas Davidson, because now he's able to do his own music. It's the same thing with a lot of people coming up with albums that they promote through their website or their YouTube channels or their Twitter accounts. They can promote it. You don't need the big major companies anymore to bring music to your fans.
Yeah, the only downside of it is just that with digital transfer, there's so many people getting free stuff that, you know, the musician doesn't make much money paying for the songs so that the artist can make a living, then that would be cool. But it's kind of a trade-off for the control. We've lost the way of making a living at it.
That's so true. The only way, basically, to make a little bit of money is through the selling stuff on your website or merchandise or touring.
Right. That's right. And labels are smart. They brought back vinyl because it's the whole package. I remember saying that back in the 80s when CDs came out. When CDs first came out, I said, this is going to hurt. In the long run, this is going to hurt the industry. I said that the only way they're going to get back into selling records again is get back to vinyl, where they can have the big album cover with all the lyrics, with the paraphernalia that you get with an album. That if they can get back to that, they'll start making money again. And I remember saying this back in like the late 80s, early 90s when the CDs came out, and that's exactly what they're doing now. Wow, that's a good thing, and it's true. It's not the same sound, right? It sounds like vintage, has a different sound than when just you listen on on YouTube or whatever. Yeah, actually, I just recorded in a friend of mine's studio that he has all the old stuff. He has some processors that the Beatles used and some compressors David Bowie used, and he's got all the old vintage gear. And as soon as you hear it back, there's that sound. That's that sound we grew up on. Wow, that's amazing. And I would be very happy if you maybe put out some new music coming up. That would be great. Is this something you look forward to maybe in the next year or so, to come up with new songs you could put out on your do you have a website right now? Yeah, I did have a website because I was a vocal coach for 20 years. I was doing a lot of that. I had a lot of students on Canadian Idol and Canada's Got Talent and all the Rising Star and all kinds of different TV shows. And then about a year ago, I closed my studio and I went into ministry more full time. So I am looking forward to putting out some more music because I do have an agenda. I want to be able to raise enough money to get a camp up north to be able to help a lot of youth at risk, because I find that if they stay in their environment, it's really, really hard to get them into a situation where they're learning to help themselves until you get them out of their environment. So I do have an agenda that I want to try and accomplish. So I will be putting out another record probably within the next year. Wow, this is incredible. The first one was 1989, so we're talking 28 years ago. So you started pretty young in your career. You were back then, I remember long hair. Yep. I still got long hair. Yeah, you still do, right? Exactly. You haven't aged. You still look great, but you had that little rebel vibe to your music, and maybe a little bit different than what was going on back in the day, especially in Canada. There were a lot of pop bands, and but your style was totally different. I would say that, when you were touring, the fans, how was the reaction of the fans? Did you have a loyal following here in Canada? And I know you also toured in the United States. Yeah, we didn't do much there. We did tour, but not much. Toured all over Canada and Australia. I went to Australia and New Zealand. I did that, but a little bit in the States, but not too much. Okay, and what was your favorite towns? I asked that question to Pauline, and I was surprised by the answer, because sometimes it's not where, it'd be smaller towns, or did you have cities, that you wanted to come back, or where the reaction surprised you, or? I can give you four right off the knuckle. I can give you four that I remember as being great times. Every time we played was really good, and it was Moncton, Montreal, Regina, and Calgary. And Calgary. Those four cities, every time we played was, and Timmins, Ontario. Always had a great time in Timmins. So five cities I can remember, always doing very, very well at. That's incredible. How long has it been since you've been in Montreal, to play, music? Oh, gee, I don't know. Probably close to the 28 years, I would say. It's been. I guess the last time I was in Montreal would have been around
Yeah, when your first two albums, because there was like a 2 year gap between the first two, and then in '95 you came out with The Working Man, which is a very underrated album. I loved every song on this album. It was probably, if I had to say, my favorite album that you came out with. It was not maybe as radio friendly as the first two songs, the first two albums, but I don't know. There was something about it that just, like Working Man, Wrong Kind of Love. I remember Restless Heart was also one of my good. The Roller Hockey song was awesome.
Yeah. Well, music started to change then. I remember that after a second album, the kind of stuff we were doing was no longer it, and grunge rock started to take over, and it started to change dramatically into more of the '90s type of music. So we kind of get on the back burner on that album.
Oh my God! How many awesome bands, kind of simply disappeared from the map? Almost everybody, when you think about it, 1992, 1993, it was like everything changed, and we're still listening to this music from, I would say, 85 to 92, 93, to me was like the golden years of music.
Well, there was a lot of great music in the '70s, a lot of great music in the '60s too.
Yeah.
There was, I think that from '60s, '70s, '80s, '90s. I mean, there was a lot of great music. Now, what you have is it's not that there's not good music. There is, but a lot is what you hear today is more like what am I going to say, a collage of all the decades put together. You can hear the roots of the '60s, the '70s, the '80s. You can hear the roots in the modern music today with maybe a multicultural modern beat or bass line or vocal line. But you can hear all the other decades put together.
That's awesome. And you're still a fan of music today. What kind of music do you prefer right now? If you had to, you're driving in your car, you have to come to Montreal, like a 2-3 hour drive. What kind of music would you listen to?
Well, you got to see my cell phone. it's my MP3 player. I mean, there's everything on there. I'm not a guy who likes a certain kind of music. I like a song. So I've got songs from all different genres, all different decades, all different times. That stuff I grew up on, stuff I listen to now. It's all over the place. To me, it's a song is what makes it. It's not really a type of music. I can listen to country, I can listen to rock, I can listen to disco, I can listen to, I love Earth, Wind, and Fire just as much as I did the Doobie Brothers, just as much as I, did Led Zeppelin, and so it's all over the place.
It's all over the place. Do you listen to some country music, right now, from today, singers like Luke Bryan or, guys like Keith Urban, maybe?
Yeah, I used to go do, I had a lot of country students that I was working with, and I used to go to Nashville every year down to the country music radio seminar. So a lot of these artists I've seen firsthand, like Luke Bryan and, Keith Urban, like you said, I've been 2 feet from them while they're performing, right? So I went every year because it was an industry convention that you had to be somehow related to radio, either with a record company or doing broadcast or whatever, in order to get in. Now it's open to the public. The public can get in, but back then it wasn't. So we would go every year, and I would manage to take a couple of students down and let them see, some of the big performers. So I got well acquainted with a lot of the country stuff.
Wow. I was in Nashville, always heard it's like country music town, but also like music city. So I've been to Nashville a few times, but I've never really had a chance to spend like a whole weekend there. But did you enjoy Nashville? Is it a place you could live or spend months recording there?
Oh yeah, I could live in Nashville, not just for the music. I just like the area. I mean, it's just a neat town, and the downtown area I always loved. I love the food. I love the people.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a cool area to be in. You can go any night, and you can see some really wild entertainers. There's some great songwriters, some great singers, vocalists, guitar players down there. I mean, that you'll probably never hear from. You'll probably never ever hear them, right? And you go into a nightclub down there and listen to them. They're all fantastic. So it is a very, very inspirational city.
That's incredible. A guy that reminds me a lot of you. In country music is Tim Rushlow and Wade Hayes. Two very very good singers. I don't know if you know Wade Hayes, but Wade Hayes also has kind of voice that you have, deep voice, and is a great singer. He had cancer a few years ago, and now he came back from it, and he put out some brand new CD a few months ago. A great singer and a great guy. Have you ever had the chance to meet either Tim Rushlow or Wade Hayes?
No, I have not. No, I have not had a chance to meet them. Have
you had a chance to meet Paul Lane? Through when you were touring back in the early '90s here in Canada.
No, I have not. No, I never met Paul.
You never crossed paths, even though Have you crossed paths with some? What Canadian singers have you ever been? I don't know, Paul Brandt or Bryan Adams or
I played with Tom Cochran. I played with Kim Mitchell, Alana Miles.
Wow.
Grapes of Wrath, Pursuit of Happiness. Who else? I played with George Thorogood, although he's not Canadian. Lots of people. I can't remember how. Jan Arden used to open for us. She was our opening act.
Wow, I remember you doing a show with Helix, if I remember correctly. I saw you in Toronto.
Well, Helix and we were from the same management. So I knew those guys. In fact, I was there. I started off as doing some bass with Helix. I tried out as a bass player, and
oh my god!
This is, and then after that, I started with my own band. But I've known those guys for years and years, and actually, I wrote a couple songs with Helix.
That's awesome. They're a great band. Very good band.
Before Paul was killed. Yeah.
Wow, I enjoyed their music. I still have a few CDs from them, and did you say that one of the guys passed away from the band?
Yeah, there was a bus accident back in, I believe, 1992.
Oh my God!
Paul Hackman was the guitar player and one of the writers of Helix, and was a good friend of mine. And I used to go down and write with him all the time, and we wrote Wild in the Streets together. And then they had a bus accident where they had a driver who fell asleep at the wheel, and the bus went over a mountain in BC, and Paul was killed.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
My goodness! Did the band, kept on playing after that, or they disbanded?
Oh yeah, Brian Vollmer, the lead singer, has been the driving force of that band. He should be nominated for a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Junos. Brian should be nominated for that because he's just a workaholic, and he's never given up. I mean, they still tour every year. They still put out albums every year. I mean, he's an amazing guy.
Wow. And tell me about the Juno Awards, 1991, right? If I remember, that you won the New Male Artist of the Year?
No, I didn't win. I was nominated, but I didn't win.
Oh my God, I thought you win. I thought you win, so it sucks. You should have won.
Well, I don't know about me. He shouldn't have, though.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. But I don't know about me. There was other Rufus Wainwright. He was part of that. Rock Voisine was in the same category.
Yeah.
Rock Voisine, he's got a fantastic voice. But I still don't know. I think it went to Danny Lanwell because of his, the year before he was big with U2, right? So
yeah.
I think they felt sorry for him that year, so I gave it to him. But I shouldn't have won, but somebody else should have.
Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with former member of your band, The Storm?
Actually, we just reunited last year after 26 years.
Wow.
So we are back together again, and we've just done a handful of dates, and we're going to do another one this summer.
Are you serious? Oh, through Facebook, I want to see where you're going, so I want to see you live.
Yeah, well, we're doing one more this summer in Stony Creek. We're playing at the Peach Festival in Stony Creek. I think it's August 29th, and it's the original band. So if you can make a trip in,
I would love to.
Plan.
It's not that far from where I am. And do you the set list? Does it still consist of your albums that you put out? The albums you did together, or you mix up new songs, or?
No, we right now we're just doing what is on our first and second album and third album. Just doing songs from the three albums, and most of it is all first album, and it's all the original guys, the very first guys.
Wow, the lady that sang with you had a wonderful voice.
Oh.
Wonderful voice.
And she's still with us.
she's amazing. You know, I remember she was also very nice. You know, when we met her, you and her. You know, she, you know, live, great on record, but also very good live performer, as you are. You know.
Yeah, no, the band is actually. Well, we should be. We're much better than we used to be. We should be after 26 years. But you know, but it's great playing with the guys again. Lots of energy, and it's really cool.
Yeah, maybe we can go through. You know, I asked a question to Pauline. I was surprised by the answer. Let's say any song that comes to your mind, but maybe Another Man's Gone, or like you told me before, you wrote it here in Montreal. But like Rolling Storm, or how do you go through writing a song? You know, do you go with the lyrics first, or you go with the melody, or both at the same time, or is it different every time?
Well, back then, I wrote a song. The way I used to write a song was from beginning to end. I'd start with the verse, go to the chorus, and then I go beginning to end. And usually started with a melody and then on to the lyrics. Today, I write all over the place. And today, sometimes, you know, and a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll start with a chorus and you know, get my title of the song together, because then I know what I'm writing about, and then backtrack into a verse or second verse and move on from there. Sometimes it'll be lyrics, sometimes it'll be melodies, sometimes it'll be a riff. I've learned to be able to write all over the place.
Wow. And what song comes to mind if you have to take about one of the highlight song, the song that would be like the highlight of your career? Like for me, it would be Cruel Life. But to you, what song, you know, that you put out that you're still very proud and you still remember when you wrote it, how it came together, the reaction that you had from the people, you know?
Well, I have to say that probably one of my favorite songs that I've ever written is Another Man's Gun. I love that song. I love the energy it had live. But what I will say is that it seems that the song Carry Me has had the absolute most recognition all over North America. And on top of that, it's done some supernatural things. Carry Me, every so often I get an email in now, which, you know, at first it was letters because we didn't have internet back then, but I mean, now it's email, and I get an email in talking about how a person was, you know, on the verge of taking their own life, and by listening to Carry Me, it got them through a bad situation, and they've turned their life around.
Wow.
This has happened more than, I can't tell you how many times this has happened. So I've heard stories upon stories upon stories. I'll go somewhere and they'll say, "You Ray Lyell?" Yeah, and I says, "Oh man, I got to tell you about Carry Me." And the same kind of thing was, they were in a bad situation, and they figured there was no way out, and they were going to take their own life, and that song stopped them from doing it. So I mean, I got to tell you that song has moved mountains, and I mean, I don't know why. It wasn't anything special that I wrote in it. It was just it was a story about three different people, and but it has incredible legs that have gone on to help a lot of people in different situations. That's
the most rewarding thing, I guess, that you can have. Having a song, you know, change people's life. You know, I remember Pauline telling me that a lot of people, you know, would email him or send him stuff on his Facebook saying that they called their daughters Doriana from a song that he wrote. And you're like, my God, you know, that's incredible. You guys don't have any idea. Sometimes music is the only friend some people got. You know what I mean? There's some people, you know, all they have is music and a song, you know, they'll fall in love with. And like to me, Cruel Life, you know, when I'm going through a bad time, it's my kind of pick-me-up song. I love Cruel Life, you know, it just makes me go like, you know, if you want to do something bad enough, you got to do it your own way. Come on, get up your butt, do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And we were listening to it Saturday night. We had a party here. And,
that has been the motto of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
It feels like it when you sing it.
I've never had the chance. I've never been given a chance where it's saying, okay, you know, we're going to do this with you, we're going to do that. I mean, I have, but it's never been worked out. It's always me getting back and doing it my own way.
That's so true, and that's why the song's probably as good as it is, because it feels like you wrote it, you sing it, and you mean it. When you sing that song, it's straight from the heart, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, there's a lot of good singers out there, you know, that are singing songs that they get from songwriters. That's okay, you know, but they're great performers. But nothing beats hearing a singer singing from the heart, a song that he wrote, you know, that is personal to him. And like you said, you know, it moves mountains because, you know, people can be influenced by it. It can be influenced in a good way, and it can change some people's lives. Like your song "Carry Me," a Cruel Life, and I'm sure a lot of other songs. And sometimes not necessarily a song, but the feel good vibe that the music that you wrote bring to people when they listen to it. There's some singers you just listen, it just makes you feel good. Just feel like happy. Like Bon Jovi to me again today. I still listen to Bon Jovi, and it just has that positive attitude. Never give up. Don't. If something happens, you take it on the chin and you get back up.
Yeah, I agree. As writers, as songwriters, and as artists, we got to realize that we've been given a lot of power in music, because music is very powerful, and I believe we're held accountable for that. We need to understand that we're affecting lives out there, and we can affect them in a positive way or a negative way, and we need to be reminded of that every time we write something.
It's true. It's true. Another song that you wrote that to me has good meaning, and I really enjoyed the lyrics was Gypsy Wind.
Oh, Gypsy Wind, yeah. That was actually, I wrote that in Quebec too.
You did?
Yeah, I remember that. You know what, Gypsy Wind, that was when we had finished our second album. We'd spent a lot of money, and we'd done, I think it was 10 songs, and the record company said, you don't have a hit. And so we went to Quebec over the weekend. I wrote Gypsy Wind. We went and recorded it over a weekend and put it on the album. And I remember the producers were saying, if you put this on this record, you will kill this record, because the quality of Gypsy Wind is nowhere near like the quality of the rest of the album. And so I had a decision to make, and I said, no, we're going to put it on the album. And we did, and it was the only song that sold the album. It was the hit song of the album.
Wow, it's incredible, because I have a flashback from a podcast I did earlier, a few years ago with Tim Rushlow of Little Texas, and when they put out their second album, they had the song "God Bless Texas," which became like probably one of the most legendary country hits of the 90s, and the producer was like, no, this is gonna paint you as Texas guys. The guys were actually from Tennessee, so they had the song "God Bless Texas," and they insisted on doing it, and it became a number one hit. But nobody at first wanted to, and it became a big hit everywhere, not just in Texas. So it just shows that sometimes you guys are feeling it. You're the guys that produces these songs. You're in the studio. You're out there live. You're singing it. You have the reaction of the crowd. It's totally different from the guy sitting in the office and just listening to it like, okay, oh no, this is not a radio hit, or it's too slow, or blah blah blah. You feel it. You're singing it in front of people.
Yeah, Another Man's Gun was like that. No one believed in the song, and I said we need to put that one on the album. It almost didn't make the album because a lot of people didn't believe in it, but our band liked it, and I liked it, and we put it on the album. And a guy from 8am Records said, "There's your hit," and put the song out, and that's what really knocked the album out of the park.
It really did. It really did. It was the first album was absolutely incredible. You had 4 hits out of it, and the videos were very cool too. I remember today, we don't hear about the videos as much as back in the day, but back in the day, the videos were as important as the radio hits, right?
Well, yeah, videos made sense.
Yeah.
They actually followed along with the song. The videos today makes no sense. It's like, something abstract, which is, has nothing to do with the music. But back then, you actually followed along with the song.
Exactly. It was like a mini movie.
Yeah, it was like a movie for the song, yeah.
Exactly, and looking at the from the Desert Wind, the cover of the album, you guys look at, you were from the Arizona or Utah, talking about the desert and stuff like that, and I'm big. I love going to Arizona and Utah and the desert. There's just something calling me there, and you're from Ontario, you're not that far from Calgary. So do you travel? Where's your favorite vacation spot here in North America?
Oh, I like my brother Dennis lived in Arizona, lived in Meadview, Arizona, and I used to go down and visit all the time. I love Arizona. I always did. Always loved that state. Arizona. I like North Carolina as well. So North Carolina, Arizona. I love those 2 states, and but Arizona has a special place in my heart. So
that's probably why there's a lot of songs talking about the desert, like Desert Nights, or you've been inspired by it. So it just shows that that's cool, because that's the vibe that I got listening to you and your music. So I was right. You know, it just shows that music, like you said before, it's a powerful vehicle of who we are. You know.
That's right. Yeah, it sure is.
It really is. And today, you know, like I said before, you know, do you plan on trying to make records that you're going to try to have hits out of it, or it's just going to be for your fans and because now you're in a different part of your life, and do you still have that competitive edge, you know, where you want to be on the radio, or you want to, you know?
No, I could care less.
Yeah.
Honest with you. I mean, it's not a. First of all, for me at 55 years old to try and get a hit on the radio, I think would be next to impossible. But I mean, the bottom line is, I really don't care. When I put something out there, it'll be for people that it'll be released on, you know, internet radio, and it'll be for people that probably were fans of ours for many years, and maybe new fans that come and see us play, and you know, along with social media driven.
Yeah.
We might sell a few things. We might open a few doors, but I'm definitely not looking forward to you know, some radio station calling me up and having a number one hit. I think that would probably be it would be a miracle if it could happen, but I'm not counting on it.
Exactly, you do it because it's still a part of you. But you know, like you said, you know, your old fans. But also now, like Saturday, one of my sons came outside. You know, my friends were outside, and he was listening to your songs, and he was like, "Wow, that's so good." And then he was on his cell phone, you know, typing it on YouTube, you know, Lyell, and the first thing I knew this week, you know, was listening to some of your songs. I'm like, this is like passing down from generation to generation. That's how the Eagles are still being played today. They're still, you know, 20-year-olds that love the Beatles. You know, they weren't even born when they were at their AD. You know, the same thing with Bon Jovi. You know, they're having 18-year-olds at their show. You know, when they had their first hit. You know, they were not even born.
Yeah, well, you never know, because I do remember back in 1990, when we first started out, that Stompin' Tom Connors got a resurgence, and actually started playing a lot of universities, and all the kids went crazy over Stompin' Tom Connors. And, you know, he was, back then, he was, you know, an old guy, and, you know, had his success, but for some reason, he had a resurgence in his career, and it took off, and we played all the universities we were actually opening for him in places. So you never know. It could probably happen again. You never know.
That's true. And the thing is that what I love about music is that it's the only thing that through the years, you know, everybody has in common is love for music. You know, some people will, let's say, I don't like movies, I prefer TV shows. Some people will say, I don't like wrestling, I'm a big wrestling fan. Some people will say, I love hockey, I don't like baseball, I like football. But music, you know, whether you're from Canada, the United States, Japan, Germany, everybody loves music. It's the one thing we all have in common.
Yeah, you're right.
That's true, huh? Right. And it's something that's, you know, I now with, you know, with, like you said, you know, you toured. I remember talking to Paul in Australia. People were going crazy, you know, and you're like, how in the blue hell, you know, why in Australia? And a lot of, you know, rock bands now, they tour Europe and they get more reaction. Like wrestler Chris Jericho, he's more popular in Europe than he is in the United States. Yeah. So it's just as that, you know, universal reach that you don't have to be from Germany to be, you know, to love, like a German doesn't necessarily listen to only German bands, you know, listen to American bands, you know, UK bands, Canadian music, you know. That's the cool thing about today, even more today with, like you said, satellite radio, XM radio, you know, satellite radio. Can be anywhere. You can listen to the kind of music you want to listen to. You can listen to whatever you want to listen to, and they don't necessarily play only the big major stars, you know, that radio plays. It's the same.
Well, radio's different. Radio's different. I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of different radio stations out there now, and you know, especially with all the internet radio stations out there. But I mean, even the main stations, you know, the main guys are all owned by one or two people, you know, or one or two companies. Where the smaller stations in the small little towns, they can kind of get away with and play what they want, you know. And to me, that's their way to success, is to actually play some homegrown talent, you know, because they're not going to be able to compete with the big guys. So that's one of the ways they're gonna sell airtime is to play some homegrown talent.
That's so true. That's so true. And so I'm very happy to see you're doing well. You know, you're helping people out, and you help people out with your music through the years, and now you're helping through the ministry things that you do. That's incredible. That's probably something that was instilled in you in your youth to help people, and that's a great thing. You know, I'm very proud to. That I had a good vibe when I met you 26 years ago. You were the nicest, because we had a chance to interview a lot of people from that era, from the 90s. And by far, the two nicest guys that we ever met was you and Paul Lane, by far.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
By far, very, and also, the interaction that you had with the crowd, during your shows, it's something that not a lot of people have. They'll sing their song. They'll have a few generic hi Montreal, I'm happy to be here. But you storyteller. You talk between your songs, and you would talk to people directly. And it's not something that every artist have. It probably is the reason why you're still going today. Because you were able to build that loyal fan base.
Yeah, well, it's always good when I get someone like yourself that tracks me down on social media and says, I remember when, and still has an interest in listening to what I'm doing. That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Ray. And looking forward to see you live this summer, and post the podcast on my page, and you can post it on your page too. So if we can have as many people as we can listening to it, people will probably go, oh my goodness, that's so true. I want to listen to this album again. Or people that never listen to it, they'll be like, what the hell did I miss?
Right on. Cool.
All right. So thank you so much for your time.
Okay, Tom, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Bye. All right, everybody. So thank you very much for listening. It was Ray Lyell from Ray Lyell and the Storm. A very great Canadian singer. A guy that I had a chance to meet, like I said before in the podcast, 26 years ago, and very great singer. As you could see, a very great guy. And that's the power of social media. You can find artists or singers or maybe even sometimes wrestlers, that you know through social media, and be able to get in touch with them and to hear their stories and share them with you guys. So that's what I love to do. So have a good night, everybody, and looking forward for the next podcast. Thank you.